just the popularity of this, the issue with it is because it's such a big, huge, crushing debt on people under what 40, 45 in this country. But the Republicans want you to know that they care about student debt too. So here's the Republican plan, the Senate GOP, and their plan for student debt. You ready? You excited?
Biden's scheme does nothing to drive the underlying cause of the debt crisis. According to the Center for Responsible Federal Budget, if this student debt loan transfer goes into effect, students and taxpayers will be back in the same situation in 5 years. Total debt at that point will be $1.6 trillion. This is not a fix. This is merely a Band-Aid, and the Band-Aid saddles taxpayers with a burden again in 5 years. That's why this morning we introduced the lowering...
So I want to point out this argument because this is really stupid. So they estimate like the overall total cost of this thing, right? For the Biden's debt forgiveness, the $10,000, $20,000 student loan forgiveness. They estimate it could cost, $500 billion over 10 years. Okay, so that's $50 billion a year, right? We've broken this down before, though. It's really stupid because it actually doesn't really cost anything because the government's already paid this. The government pays all this up front, so it's already been paid for, right? Furthermore, it would cost the government more than that $500 billion to collect that $500 billion. So even then, it costs the government more. So the government's not getting $500 billion; they're losing money every year on student debt. On top of that, he's saying, well, if we give this debt forgiveness now and we don't change or do anything else, we ignore everything else that's going on and we don't change the cost of college or do anything to reform college or the expense, right? And we don't start funding it like we used to. If we do nothing else, then yeah, in 5 years, we'll be in the same situation. Well, yeah, because those kids will rack up more debt, right? That's the point is you can't just do this one thing. That's why Biden's bill was...
So wait, we're saying it's not enough and we need to do more.
Well, what we're saying is... We're not saying it that way, Lacey, because that would be accurate. What we're saying is it's not enough, so we shouldn't bother doing it.
Well, there's no point to do anything.
It's just a Band-Aid.
So there's no point in fixing a little bit of the problem.
Right.
If we can't fix all of the problem.
So, since we can't fix all of the problem, let's just ignore the problem. That's basically the argument he just made. Which is why I think it's so funny.
I don't think anybody who is in favor of student loan forgiveness is saying, oh, I've got an idea. Let's wipe out all these people's student loans, or a big chunk of them, and let's turn around and make sure the next generation, of college students is totally screwed because we leave all the costs up really high, and nobody's saying that. Yeah. Nobody thinks that that's what needs to happen. Everyone thinks there needs to be a whole revamp.
No, but part of the whole big plan is we need to start funding colleges more, right? Like I said, I know somebody who worked in administration in college, was, it was like a dean level administrator. And, they remember oh, yeah, I remember in, 90 whatever, when I started, it was 97 or 98. The late 90s, I had 67 or 68% of my budget was federal funds or funds from the state that came from the federal government. By the time I left 10 years later, it was 15%. That's where your student loans are. You had to make up that difference as the student for the college because the government stopped giving them money. That's the problem. And that's where he's missing the whole thing. The problem is that yeah, if we don't fix the problem, which is colleges are overcharging. Why? Because they don't have any money. So they have to charge the students for everything. Right? So we'll finish this up real quick with these guys, because this is... So listen carefully for their debt relief solution.
Education Cost and Debt Act, a package of 5 bills aimed at directly addressing the issues driving skyrocketing cost of higher education and the increasing amounts of debt students take on to attend school.
So that is
So this is John Icoletti, but they're talking about that. When you go through this bill, nothing to relieve student debt or lower the cost of college. Nothing in there. There's no plan whatsoever. Let me see. He's got it here. Let's skip to... I think this is it here.
Transparency Act. It would reform college data reporting systems to make information about outcomes such as graduation rates and debt after graduation more accessible, so that you would have a little bit more information before choosing which college to go to. And then when you choose and you go to that college, you would begin accruing debt again, because you'll notice that has nothing to do with your debt. Okay, but maybe in Bill 2 they have something. So
here we go.
The Understanding the True Cost of College Act. It would require colleges and universities to use uniform financial aid letters that are clear on the cost associated with attending the college. I actually think that that's another good idea. So you would get a standardized form that tells you exactly how much debt you're being burdened with, and it will be a lot, because that does nothing to actually reduce the cost of college, you'll notice. But maybe it's in Bill 3, third time's the charm, they say. The Informed Student Borrowing Act, that would require prospective students to be provided with additional information about their loans, including the duration of the loan, their expected monthly...
So this is, you get the theme here. The theme is, we're not going to do anything to correct the problem. What we're going to do is we're going to inform you about how badly you're getting screwed.
Right. We're going to tell you what the problem is, and we're going to tell you more things about the problem.
Right. And it's an attempt essentially to discourage you from going. Especially poor people. Because that's all that does at the end of the day. Right? So, I mean, but it does tell you two things that I think are really important. One, the Republicans are now trying to do something about it because they realize this is an issue people care about. And it's a big deal. Two, they realize how unpopular it is if they take away Biden's debt relief plan. If the Supreme Court overthrows it, the Republicans are going to get blamed because it's a predominantly conservative Supreme Court. And the Republicans are the ones that brought the lawsuit. So 41 million Americans with college loans are going to sit there and go, well, these guys just screwed me. Right? And why did they do it? Because they don't want to give me a break. They have no problem giving their rich buddies a break. But so it tells you that Republicans realize it's a big issue, and it tells you that Democrats at least now know it's a big issue, right? And it's a popular issue to try and deal with this and try and fix this problem. So that's all good news. And like Lacey said before, that means they're going to be looking at new ways to forgive this, correct this, change this, fix this. Why? Because it buys votes. And they know it's going to buy a lot of votes from millennials and Gen Z going forward. So that's all good stuff for us. It's all good news. I mean, I'm not negative on it. But